There we go. There we go. I think we are, in fact, live now. Finally getting this to work correctly. If you can hear or see me, let me know. And we'll see how this goes. All right. Well, I think this is, yeah, we're good. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the what is it called? The Ramblestream. This evening I have, first of all, I am Richard Worsham with Janus Motorcycles. This is less of a formal Janus Motorcycles production and more of a just kind of hanging out. As always, or no, not as always with me, but as always, we recommend bringing let's see if I can get it in the frame here. A beverage. I'm drinking an all-day IPA from our state to the north, Michigan. And I welcome everyone else to, if you're on, tell us what you're drinking. Tell us how your weekend was. Mine was pretty uneventful. Just kind of took it easy. I've been traveling a lot over the past week and a half. I went out last weekend and attended my high school's 20th year reunion, which was, it felt like it snuck up on me, and it was big enough for me to make it back. I went to a pretty neat old school, and it was good to see everybody. Most of the people I had not seen since I packed up my stuff and left, but it was good to be back and to kind of reforge those connections. But then I headed out, got back here, and then headed back to DC on Tuesday for an event with Google, which we had not really done anything with them in I think 5 years since they did a video on us featuring how we use their products. And they had kept up with us. A couple of people on the Google film crew actually bought bikes, and we really had a good time with them. Treated them to some Midwestern fun, big bonfires, and they had, I think they got a lot out of it and appreciated not being in either Mountain View, California or New York. So it was a lot of fun. Anyway, I went out there, got a chance to meet not with the actual senators, but even the office of Rand Paul, because he's to the south. And the woman the group I was with was from Kentucky, so she wanted to speak with her representative, and then we got to speak with our representative. Both of them represented by staffers, not by the actual politicians. But I got a little taste of Washington D.C. politics and the machine. So I'm glad to be back. Let's just say that. It was something else. All right, we've got a couple of people on. All names that we recognize. Andrew Felix, he says video and audio are good. Thank you very much, Andrew. That's good to know. This software we use, I can click on the link I've scheduled, and then it'll open a new video. And so I'm like publishing, and I was talking for a minute. I'm like, this is not the right link. So stop that, and then it can just be kind of confusing and glitchy. So I'm glad we all have it. Michael Trueblood, another good friend of the shop and a woodworker. He's got some cool features on his bike. Says all good. And Jeep Man Dan, as always, man, you are the live stream, as Grant would say, true blue. So good to see you all on. As always, this is so much more fun when we have a conversation. So interrupt me, tell me what I'm doing wrong, whatever. I love having the conversation. Anyway, we do have quite a bit to get through, but as always, I'm going to bore you all to death with a poem. And this time we're going to read. This one is kind of neat because it's, I think it's, well, first of all, it's Robert Frost, and we're not going to do Richard Wilbur this time around. And it is about just working, and it's about the experience of working with other people and the kind of the unspoken rules of interacting with other people and how you do that successfully or you don't, and the repercussions. So this is called the code. It's a little longer than the ones I've done so far. I hope I don't bore you all. But if not, you can pause and come back when we get to design. We do have quite a lot of design work to get through, so I'll try and make this quick. But I would encourage you. It's just, Frost is so good because it's a blank verse. He just speaks, and it doesn't come across as too overwrought or anything like that. So we'll go ahead and get started. The Code by Robert Frost. There were 3 in the meadow by the brook, gathering up windrows, piling cocks of hay, with an eye always lifted toward the west, where an irregular, sun-bordered cloud darkly advanced, with a perpetual dagger flickering across its bosom. Suddenly, one helper, thrusting pitchfork in the ground, marched himself off the field and home. One stayed. The town-bred farmer failed to understand. What is there wrong? Something you just now said. What did I say? About our taking pains. To cock the hay because it's going to shower? I said that more than half an hour ago. I said it to myself as much as you. You didn't know. But James is one big fool. He thought you meant to find fault with his work. That's what the average farmer would have meant. James would take time, of course, to chew it over before he acted. He's just got round to act. He's a fool if that's the way he takes me. Don't let it bother you. You've found out something the hand that knows his business won't be told to do work better or faster. Those 2 things. I'm as particular as anyone. Most likely I'd have served you just the same. But I know you don't understand our ways. You were just talking what was in your mind, what was in all our minds, and you weren't hinting. I'll tell you a story of what happened once. I was up here in Salem at a man named Sanders with a gang of 4 or 5 doing the haying. No one liked the boss. He was one of those sports call a spider, all wiry arms and legs that spread out wavy from a humped body nigh as big as a biscuit. But work, that man could work, especially if by doing so he could get more work out of his hired help. I'm not denying he was hard on himself. I couldn't find that he kept any hours, not for himself. Daylight and lantern light were one to him. I've heard him pounding in the barn all night. But what he liked was someone to encourage. Tell them that he couldn't lead, he'd get behind, and drive the way you can, in mowing. Keep at their heels and threaten to mow their legs off. I'd seen about enough of his bulling tricks. We call that bulling. I'd been watching him. So when he paired off with me in the hayfield to load the load, thinks I, look out for trouble. I built the load and topped it off. Old Sanders combed it down with a rake and says, okay. Everything went well till we reached the barn, with a big jag to empty in a bay. You understand, that meant the easy job for the man up on top of throwing down the hay and rolling it off wholesale, where on a mow it would have been slow lifting. You wouldn't think a fellow'd need much urging under those circumstances, would you? But the old fool seizes his fork in both hands and, looking up bewhiskered out of the pit, shouts like an army captain, "Let her come!" And thinks I, do you mean it? What was that you said? I asked out loud, so there'd be no mistake. Did you say, let her come? Yes, let her come. He said it over, but he said it softer. Never you say a thing like that to a man, not if he values what he is. God, I'd as soon have murdered him as left out his middle name. I'd built the load and knew right where to find it. 2 or 3 forkfuls I picked lightly round for like meditating, and then I just dug in and dumped the rackful on him in 10 lots. I looked over the side once in the dust and caught sight of him treading water-like, keeping his head above. "Damn ye," I says, "that gets ye." He squeaked like a squeezed rat, and that was the last I saw or heard of him. I cleaned the rack and drove out to cool off. As I sat mopping hayseed from my neck and sort of waiting to be asked about it, one of the boys sings out, "Where's the old man?" "I left him in the barn under the hay. If you want him, you can go and dig him out." They realized, from the way I swabbed my neck, more than was needed, something must be up. They headed for the barn. I stayed where I was. They told me afterward. First, they forked hay, a lot of it, out into the barn floor. Nothing. They listened for him. Not a rustle. I guess they thought I'd spiked him in the temple before I buried him, or I couldn't have managed. They excavated more. Go keep his wife out of the barn. And someone looked in a window, and curse me if he wasn't in the kitchen, slumped way down in a chair with both his feet against the stove, the hottest day that summer. He looked so clean disgusted from behind, there was none that dared to stir him up, or let him know that he was being looked at. Apparently I hadn't buried him. I may have knocked him down. But my just trying to bury him had hurt his dignity. He had gone to the house so as not to meet me. He kept away from us all afternoon. We tended his hay. We saw him out, after a while, picking peas in the garden. He couldn't keep away from doing something. Weren't you relieved to find he wasn't dead? No. And yet, I don't know, it's hard to say. I went about to kill him fair enough. You took an awkward way. Did he discharge you? Discharge me? No. He knew I did just right. I love that one. I won't say any more. That's a good one. Okay. We got some stuff to design. If anyone's still with me. Oh, Gary's on. Hey, Gary. From East Lansing. Gary's a serial customer and dear friend. Okay, let's do the hard one first. We're going to design, not the thing you see on your screen, which is this little guy, right? Let's see if I can show it here. Here, an update to this. But instead, we'll get to that. We're going to do a part for an air box. Boom. If I can figure this out. I've done this twice on this is the 250 air box. And what's basically the problem is that the door panel is like or somehow in the last year or so, it's like something has changed in the way that we're making it, and it's slightly off kilter. And so we have to kind of cheat it over a little bit. And so Ryan, our assembly lead, has tasked me with correcting that. So I'm going to try and make sure it goes the right way, because the last time I did it perfectly, except it went even worse. So we're going to fix this, I hope. So let us get started. Oh, Grant's on. Hey, Grant. How's it going? Cheers, everybody. Oh, I better take a sip. All right. We're going to make sure that we're going the right direction. So basically, it's really, maybe I'll have to show you a picture of what we're doing so you can understand. So basically, this is the 450. Let's see if we can pop that up there so you can see it. So here's the air box on the 450. Let me get this stuff out of the way. And then pull up my screen. What's going on? There we go. Okay, so you can see up here right now, this is an air box. This is actually for the 450. It's almost identical on the 250. It just has a different rate. It's the same concept. It has just minor adjustments to fit the frame better. It's a little narrower. It has a different slot at this thing right here, this little hood you see on the back that's yellow now, is actually the air intake. And it slides up in there, and then that prevents any gasoline vapor that's trapped in here from escaping. It's up high enough that gas vapor will always settle, and so it helps us with our California vapor, the what do they call it? Evaporative emissions. Anyway, I'm just giving you an idea. If we move these little yellow things that I'm highlighting yellow right now, they hold clip nuts, which are little metal nut clips that fit on that have a threaded portion. They hold those, and that's what you screw the door panel onto. And if they get off at all, then it can make the door not align properly. So I'm showing you on the 451 there. But we're going to adjust in the flat pattern because we haven't gotten up to, this is kind of a holdover from, we used to do everything in 2D. And this is kind of a holdover. I haven't put it into 3D yet, which I need to get around to, but that would be a much longer Ramblestream if we were going to do that. So we're just going to correct this. So in order to do that, what we need to do is move and I've already done the math here. We need to move these tabs essentially 0.1 inches over. And we're going to actually move it in toward the left. So do you see these little slots here? I hope everybody can see what I'm talking about. These little, I'll zoom in and you'll see. These position those little tabs that hold the clip nuts that then look at the door. Once this whole thing, with this big rectangle, I should really back up. This big rectangle you see is what we call a flat pattern projection of this. So if you were to unfold this piece of metal here, it would look, see what I'm saying there? See that little slot right there? If you were to unfold that, it would end up looking like, well, no, it wouldn't look like that. It would look like this. So that's what we're doing. So if I move these a little bit one way, it's going to help correct that door. We've already calculated that, so just so you understand. So now I'm going to go ahead and do that. So all I have to do is add, we'll just go up by 8. Oop, there we go. Did that one? See, all I'm doing is I'm changing the dimensioning, redefining it. And we'll do the same thing here. And that's pretty much it on that air box, I believe. And what we can do is just to be sure we're not messing it up, we can compare. Let's see if we can compare it with what was before. This is a kind of a cool feature in Onshape, the design software we're using, where I can compare two versions. So you see I've highlighted, let's make sure y'all can see what I'm looking at here. Yeah, you can see the red and the blue there. The Rev J would be the last revision, which was made by Charlie on June 24th last year. And now we're updating it again. But you can see that the red will represent what that revision was, and the blue is now the main. We haven't released this yet. It's just where I'm working. So if we look over here, I'll try and make this visible for y'all. You see, here's the piece we just modified, and there's a little slider up here. And can you see what's happening there? It's showing, it's a comparison, just so you can kind of like visually check what you just did, and that looks perfect. What we've done is we've moved from the slots being on this side, and now you're seeing in reverse to the other side. So we've just adjusted those panels so that the door sits better. I can't explain, none of us are really sure why it got off, but there was something in either the way that it's being bent or welded that's changed slightly, and it's so consistent. It's been happening long enough that we know it's something that we can, if we fix it, it's not going to like throw it off the other direction. So we're going to go ahead and do that. That's pretty much it right there. That was a really easy update. We're going to go back to the main, get rid of the comparison. Let me see what the comments say. We got Jacob Will, it says cheers. Russell Peters says hello. Hello everybody, good to see you all. Share what you're drinking, if anything. So now we've got that up there. I'm going to go ahead and update the print. We'll just make sure this is good. We're gonna. I'm gonna increase the size of this revision block just because it gives us more room in the future to write a good description, and it also allows us to narrow those out. Jeep Man Dan says two-hearted. A closer Michigan relative to the north. So that one, two-hearted is from Bell's, which is in Kalamazoo, or Comstock, and Founders is from Grand Rapids, I think. Yeah, Grand Rapids, I think. Yes, it's from Grand Rapids. I love All Day, and I love Two-Hearted is one of my personal favorites. Peach Oberon. Is that Jacob, what's that? Oberon, Peach Oberon. Who makes that? Okay, let's go ahead and so we've increased the revision table. I'm just going to say adjusted. Remember, you don't put too much information. You just say you changed adjusted door tab slots. Bam. I'm not going to put any dimensions in there because the dimensions have automatically updated here. I forgot to show you all. I updated it automatically, so they're going to be corrected automatically. And what we will do is make sure that we'll hide any previous ones, and then we'll add a K. So this is what we're doing right now, is adding a revision callout. So if you've been on one of these streams before, you'll remember that. So adjusted door this revision is a revision table. It shows what's changed. So if the vendor is looking at this, they can quickly tell, instead of going through every single dimension and seeing what changed, you can highlight what's changed so that they know where to look. It just saves everybody time. So in this case, we've made K as the number of this revision, or it will be when we release it. That's why it has a little asterisk next to it, and why it says in progress across the watermark. This little K will move down to where we have adjusted it, which would be this guy right here. We'll do that guy. That one, and then we'll put a second one on the other one. Right, and I'll just put it over both of them. Okay, does that make sense? Everybody tracking? Oh, here we go. We got a lot more comments. Jacob Will says only available at Bell's. It's the so Oberon is I should have guessed is a Bell's. I have never had their peach Oberon, but he says that it is only available physically at their Comstock location. Nice. You must be from Michigan. Gary Smith is drinking Diet Dr. Pepper. Cheers, Gary. So Grant says, I was a little late, so apologies if I missed this in the beginning, but can you talk about how things are different, better, what changes in the design process from flat pattern versus 3D? That is a great question. Let's go ahead and I'll keep talking while I release this. The difference is that, like I showed you with this, the big 450, here's the 450 airbox assembly, is that this is literally, this part has all the, so you see all these bits that are in here, in this final assembly. Each one of those final assemblies, or those pieces that go into the final assembly, actually is a part. So if I right click, this is really cool. If I right click on this, open linked document, we're going to be taken to, this is going to be the flat pattern or the shell, which we were just adjusting on the 250. This is the shell for the 450. So every part in that 3D model actually is a piece, and we can actually assemble them together to make the part. And then it actually represents what is built very, very closely. And if it doesn't, we can make corrections. So it helps us to be, in the old days when we were designing on paper, we realized very quickly that what was built and what was designed they were related to each other, but there was a lot of difference. And so when you went to make a design update, you couldn't just do it off of your previous designs, like put another piece of trace paper on the board, trace what you did before, and then modify it. You had to do that, but also adjust it to match the as-built or the physical reality. So what we're trying, by moving to 3D, we've been able to have the virtual design perfect, or if not perfectly, very close enough, match what is built, and then keep adjusting it. And a big part of that, like we talk about in one of our videos, was making sure the tooling is really good. So it's kind of those two things have to be done simultaneously. You can do the 3D design and trust it if your tooling is accurate and repeatable enough to be able to produce the same part every single time. So when we moved to the 450, we were able to do both those things, which is why the 450 is really the first of our bikes, which is completely designed in 3D CAD, in this case Onshape. If you look at the 50cc, it was basically on paper or on the shop floor. So there are no prints for most of the 50cc to the 250, which there are prints for most of the parts, and we've updated almost all of them, and many of them are 3D. But in this case, like this airbox, this has probably been updated. Let's go see real quick. The 250 airbox, that's the 450. The 250, it has, I'm not sure why it has a Rev J, but let's just say it's got 3 revisions. It will have a 4th one when we're done here. So it's not been really updated much. It's just small things that we've had to tweak along the way. So anyway, that's one of the benefits of moving to 3D. It does make the design process faster, even though it takes more work. But it allows us to, really what it is, it's forward thinking. It allows us to adjust designs based on feedback from assembly, fabrication, the customers, salespeople. We can make fine-tuned adjustments on the fly, and as you'll see, release prints to vendors very, very quickly and easily. So there's your answer, Grant. Tim Norris, haven't been on lately, so maybe you've answered this already. Do you need a metric and standard set of sockets, wrenches, etc. to work on the Janus, i.e. Chinese engine but standard American chassis? No. We did talk about this in the last episode when we were designing a part, which I need to show you all, actually. I'm going to get really sidetracked. We're going to get almost nothing done today. I think it's already half an hour. I do need to show you this, though. Do you remember the part we designed? Let's pull it up here real quick. We designed a machined component for the California carburetors, which has got to be here somewhere. Here it is, right here. And it was a lot of fun. There were some great suggestions from several of you all who are machinists that recommended this should be tapered slightly, and you were absolutely right. It did break a little unpredictably, but basically this is a small part that we use to tamper-proof carbs for people in California. Sorry, California folks. If you want to change that, you need to, I don't know, talk to your representative. But anyway, we had it rapid prototyping that was done very quickly by a local machine shop, and I'm going to show this to y'all because it's going to be kind of hard. It's really small, but let's see if the camera will. Come on, camera. There you are. There it is. Beautiful little brass piece. And there is the finished product for you all to see. And I'm very pleased to say that we sent it to California and they tested it and they could not tamper with our carburetor. So it is tamper proof. So that worked. So we will be, there's some small adjustments I'm going to make to that so that it breaks more accurately because I guess just to real quickly, the idea is that the screw head on that at a certain torque, you break it off and then it can't be adjusted. So there you have it. So anyway, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, standard and metric. Everything on the bike for maintenance, everything. I mean, 99.99% of everything is metric. So I only take metric tools with me when when I rode cross country. That's all you're going to need. There are very limited number of standard, especially machined things that we make. So like the top nut on the forks, I think we copied it off of a older bike and it was standard. And we did that, but very, very minimal. I mean, nothing that you're ever maintaining or working on with the bike. So metric tools are good. Grant says it's an honest question too. I'm not an audience plant. Oh yeah, you are. No. He's talking about the 3D. Michael Trueblood, did you consider modifying the tab? Oh yes, yeah, we could have, but we use it on several bikes or different models, so that could have gotten us in more trouble. It's just easier to change the shell. Danny Fowler says, listening while on the road to Goshen, picking up 962 tomorrow. That is fantastic. We look forward to seeing you, Danny. That is wonderful. Safe travels, and I hope you're not imbibing a beverage of alcoholic nature in your travels. That's wonderful. Okay, let's get back to this. If we ever finish this. Where were we? Oh, here we go. We're going to release this real quick. Real quick though, there we go. Rev K. Boom. Release. There's my phone binging. It means there's a release. All right, we're going to go to Rev K. We got to click on that, and we'll close that little tab there, and you'll get to see this is what the finished. See now the K up there, it doesn't have an asterisk. There's no watermark. Even when you click on the K, it'll actually highlight those. It's ready to go. We're going to go ahead and export it, and we're done. Okay, we can move on. Gary says, congratulations, Danny. Welcome to the family. Absolutely. Okay, we're going to move on to, once this is finished, another awesome part, a machine part. This is going to be much more similar to what we've been working on already. This would be a lathe turned part, and that is this. We're actually not using this one. We're going to be doing an update to this. I don't know if you can see. It's not going to focus. But anyway, this is actually a part that Charlie designed, which is manufactured by BrakeQuip, which makes a lot of our oil line components. And they make this just for us. And it has, let's pull it up here. Here's the CAD file. So this is the work of Charlie. He's done an awesome job on this part. This is essentially a this is a banjo bolt for our oil cooling system. And we have that made. I'll show you right here. Here's your, so if you have a 450 or if you don't, and it has an oil cooler, which is located essentially where the horn is on your 250, it provides a little extra cooling for the oil in the 450, which just makes it more reliable. And that was also one of the things that SWM did when they bumped up the XR400 to 445 cc's. So an extra 50 cc. They just decided to add that. And I think that they were basing that on the fact that an oil cooler was a common upgrade on the XR400. That was just common. I think they did have in extreme conditions, an overheating potential. So it's really good to see that they took that initiative. But anyway, this banjo bolt attaches the oil banjo, the oil line, to the bottom of that. So one thing we've been kind of experimenting with, and Woody actually has done a fantastic job, is are we taking full advantage of the cooling capacity, or the cooling capacity of this oil cooler? Basically, we use two of these. What if you see the title up there in the corner? It's called a special liquid bolt, and that's because that's what the Italian translation of banjo bolt is. So they call it a special liquid bolt in the Italian handbook, and so we thought it was really funny. So we have a special part number. It's being manufactured by a U.S. manufacturer, and it's called the special liquid bolt. But anyway, there are just two of them, and they're the same length on each side. So one side, hot oil coming straight from the engine, comes in, picked up by the scavenging pump, and gets pumped up in here, and then it gets fed out the other side. And one of the things we've been kind of wondering about is, are we getting enough cooling that way? Or are we getting the full amount that we could? And so one thing that we've been experimenting with is, what if we had a taller bolt on this side, a standpipe essentially, that gets that oil up to the top, so that it's not, I'm going to stutter here. What can happen is something called heat channeling, where the hot liquid, in this case oil, can create a channel where all the hot oil goes through, and then the rest of it just stays cold. In which case, you're losing the potential cooling capacity of this, essentially a radiator, which is the oil cooler. So we're thinking, what if we add a taller one and we can prevent that from happening? So what we're going to do is we're going to actually design a taller version of this bolt. It's really simple. And since Charlie has already done a lot of the hard work, I'm just going to, you can see here at the top of this, it's called copy. So I just duplicated his file, and we're going to modify the design and make it a little bit taller so that it will carry that oil up. Take a quick look at some questions here. Danny Fowler. Oh, yeah, we got that. Michael Trueblood. I'm assuming those slots are cut into a flat piece of aluminum. Could it be that you changed the procedure of bending the metal and that threw off the slot and tab alignment? Exactly, Michael. I think that's my first guess, is that something in the yes. First of all, it is a flat piece of aluminum that's got all that laser cut into it. So it's pretty. For the most part, if something's laser cut, you don't have to worry about it being off. Now, that is not always the case. We definitely have had laser cut orders come in that were wrong. I don't know how it happens, because they should be working off a CAD file. Well, they are working off a CAD file. They should be the right one. But sometimes they're off. But most of the time, we can say pretty definitively that it's not the laser cut being wrong. So yes, it's very, very likely that something in the forming process or the welding process threw that off. But because it's been happening for so long, months at this point, we know that it's consistent, and if we make a change, it's going to resolve that problem. So by modifying the shell, it actually is the simplest way of going about that. Okay. Adam Peterson, hello from West Lafayette. Hello, Adam. Adam was an intern. Adam, was that 2 summers ago? How many summers ago did you lose your mother's Costco knives at our shop? I think it was 2 years ago. Adam, you are at Purdue. Summer 2021. Yeah, that would be 2 years ago. Remind us, what are you studying at Purdue? Some kind of business, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, good to hear from you, Adam. Good to see you on. Glad you could make it. Okay, let's get started. First up, we're going to change the part number so we don't get confused. So let's create a new part number like we do. So for those of you who have not watched this before, this is the secret file. We run everything off of Google Sheets, as some of you may know. This is the Google Sheet with all the part numbers for everything. So this one, 6100 is this tab. This one is 6300. This would be all 450 part numbers. This is 61, and you can see all the hundreds of parts that go into in this case, a 250. But actually, we do need to be over in this. We need to be in the 450 list, because this will be for a 450. So let's go ahead and drag down. We're going to get a new part number. This is going to be 450 special liquid bolt. Special long liquid bolt. Oh, here we go. This is a great opportunity for me to come up with a really ridiculous part name. I always manage to, the front, forward, upper, left fender tab. Confuse everybody. No, I'm trying not to. This is 450 universal. That's what that means. It's not 451. That means it can be used on all 450s because we only have one. And this will be a machined part. So it's going to be we highlight them this color. Let me grab machine. There we go. Grab that. And then we'll grab that. Grant will make fun of me for my sheets techniques here, best practices. We got somebody else on. Seth. Hello, Seth. Seth was on our live stream on Friday, as were some other folks on here. Jeep Man Dan. Okay, so we got a part number. Let's see if we can get this done in 15 minutes, 20 minutes. We'll see. Okay. Special liquid bolt. Okay, we're going to rename it up here. We just pop that in there. Number 337, 630, 337. So 6,300 numbers would be 450s. And then we're going to rename the tab to, and actually this one as well. Okay, there will be some print updates that need to happen, but anyway. Okay, so I have not gotten in here before. I did not do the homework to see how Charlie, because a lot of times I think I've talked about this before, there's a lot of different ways to design a part, and not every designer has the same way of doing it, and Charlie and I certainly don't. His is probably, speaking of best practices, probably way better than mine as a trained engineer. But you have to kind of get in this feature list over here is the flow of how it's designed. If you can see over there on the left of your screen. And I need to kind of make sure I'm getting in here. Area calculation. Oh, so he's actually calculated the oil flow to make sure that the oil flow is correct. So there's your engineer for you doing it right. But we're going to, in order for me to modify this, I'm wondering if I should just add a sketch. I think I'm just going to add a sketch at the end. I guess I could do this. Let's try this. This might be really easy. So I'm not going to assign a length to this. I'm just going to make it longer, and we can define it in a minute based on the radiator or the oil cooler that it's going in. But you see what I'm doing now is I'm just adding a little bit of. Oh, I didn't want to add a. Let's try this. I'm not sure this is the best way to do this. But yeah, it probably is. We'll see. Okay, so we've basically extended that up, and let's see what happens when I boom. There it is. Okay. So this Onshape is so smart. It knows to include that part. What I didn't show you all there was I added a rotate, or it automatically added a rotate. So it's taking that sketch, which is this, and then it's rotating that sketch around this dotted construction line to create. So you see what I'm looking at here? To create this. So before, if we didn't do that, let's go back. It would look like that. By adding it, it goes up like that. So there would definitely be some questions here on the threading, the correct how the threading is done, and if this would be a smaller diameter. It's going to have to be smaller diameter to allow this, because this has to pass through the threads. So if we look at the root diameter, which is this right here, this says Jeepman Dan says, is this new longer bolt just for heat testing purposes at this time, or will this bolt be the new one going forward on all new builds? Just wondering if we can purchase it. That is a wonderful question. If it works as intended. Yes, this is not something at this point that we are moving into production with. We've done some experimentation with it, and Woody has done a great job of testing this. He went on a longer ride, and he had a bunch of thermocouples hooked up on this thing, and we basically brazed on a piece of a brass tube to the top of one of these guys to simulate what this would be. And he has determined that there is a benefit to we are seeing cooler temperature, or a greater temperature difference across the oil cooler with the standpipe. We don't really know if it's worth all the trouble at this point, or the cost, because they're running fine. This is not something that we're doing because of any sign that the engine's overheating, but it would be nice to take advantage of a radiator more fully if we can. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He says, yeah. Thank you. Yep. That's definitely the idea. So, should this prove to be beneficial, we will absolutely offer this to existing owners, and we'll go through the right process to install it. I'm assuming, I would say probably the best bet would be, hey, you're doing your next oil change, drain your oil. While you're at it, pop one of these on there. Or, just all you have to do is remove the existing one. Probably want to put new. We'll supply it with new crush washers. Reinstall it, torque it to the right spec, and when you put your new oil in there, check to make sure it's not leaking, and you're off to the races with an engine that I hope will be running cooler, which will be a good thing. So anyway, we're just taking a look at these root diameters here to make sure that we need to make sure that this portion will fit through the hole so that it gets up in there. So I might undersize it a little bit more just to provide ample clearance. What you can see here is that, yes, it actually does line up with the root, but we might just make it a little bit smaller. So I'm going to go over here, and we might even make it some kind of dimensional size. I'm just trimming this up. Make sure this is vertical. Okay, so it's turned blue because I haven't defined it. Before it was on this point, which was defined. So at this point, we'll give it an actual dimension. And if we pull that dimension off of the center line, or that construction line, it actually gives us what the full width would be, rather than just that half. Like on this side, it's showing half, but on this side, it's showing the full one. So let's say if we made it 0.4, would that get us where we want to be? It will. A little bit undersize of the root diameter of the thread, so we know it's going to get through into the radiator. And now we're going to need to check out the length. So for that, we're going to just take the length off of the oil cooler. I'm assuming both of these are the same length. We're going to use the bottom of my trusty old, I bought this dial caliper at a flea market in Illinois about 10 years ago, or no, like 8 years ago. And it's pretty accurate for most of the design work that I do. But if you take the base of that and you stick it, if you have anything like this, then you can just close it down. If I can do it right here. And that gives you, that's another way of using it to measure. So we're getting, and this is funny because a lot of the design work we do is in inches. So that is kind of weird that we're not using millimeters, but we'll do this one in inches just because that's the way I do it. Crossing my numbers. 3.84. So that was that side. Let's just double check that it's the same on both sides. .8. Just make sure on this one again. .84. Huh. It's a little deeper on that side. So that is going to be from the underside of where the banjo is on that. So we need to make sure that we are measuring that properly. I'm not going to go anywhere near the actual top. I don't want to create any restrictions, so we need to probably leave at least the diameter, the ID of this tube around the whole top. Just rule of thumb, but let's say we're going to be .3. What does he say? Okay, we got more people. Confed Yank. Howdy, did you get a personal Halcyon 450 for yourself? I don't have my own 450 yet. I have a 250 that I ride every day, but I ride the 450. I was just telling Grant that I need to spend more time on a 450. I need to do a long trip and really get familiar with them. I'm not as familiar with the 450 as I am with the 250, which I have many, many miles on that one and love it to death. Confed Yank says, I use inches. As long as it fits and works, why not? As long as it does, as they say. Let's see. If you're converting to metric, I would consider running to the hundredth. 1 millimeter is 0.039. That's a bunch off. Yes. 0.039. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I see your point. Yeah, that's a really good point. I definitely need to not do standard on the width of a metric part. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Let's just make sure I'm getting this depth right. Measure 8 times. Design once. 3.83. Yeah, that's gonna come in. Okay. Sorry, I'm off camera here for a minute, but I just want to make sure I get the right length. All right. Let's change this guy first. But we're just going to do... yeah, 1 millimeter is... what did Seth say? He says, I would consider running to the 100th running. Yeah, 0.39. All right, we're going to do... we'll just do 10 millimeters. So the nice thing about this is you can just convert it to millimeters, and then it automatically goes in there. So for our purposes, that's great. It's going to be more consistent, and it'll all be in the same dimension. Good, great point, Seth. Okay, so now for length, I'm going to take this, the standard, at least that I'm aware of, is you take it to the underside of the head of the piece of hardware, because that's what's going to snug up against. Now, obviously, in this case, there are 2 washers, one on top of the banjo and one below it, that you need to also factor in. So we need to do that. Just want to make sure I got this right. What time is it? 7:55. I think we're not going to probably get the print done, but let's real quick. It's Howard Spruitt. Hey, Howard, how's it going? Watching from Santa Cruz, California. Great. Seth says, bingo, sorry, I work in racing, and it's all metric. Yep. Thank you for your suggestions. Confed Yank says, design 5 times, cut once. Yeah, exactly. For me, it's design, measure 8 times, design once, and then design it again when they ask you to. Confed Yank, since you're a part of IBA, are you considering doing an around the Indiana ride? Actually, so what he's asking about is IBA is the Iron Butt Association. We just did a podcast this last week with Tim Masterson, Iron Butt aficionado par excellence. He got me into iron butt riding. And actually, all the IBA rides I've done, 2 saddle sores and a Wyman ride, have been like out and back, like long. Well, no, I take that back. Around Lake Michigan, we did around Lake Michigan and ended up back here. But if you do those long ones that are so far away, if anything happens, like you're a long way away, and then you have to get back. That was the thing when we did New Orleans. Getting back was brutal. It took us like 2 days, and it was just, we were already sore, and we just weren't. You didn't have that goal of getting it in 24 hours, so it was pretty brutal to get back, and we had to get back for work and everything. So, doing around Indiana, you can do 4 corners, and that we actually that's probably the next one I want to do. Is either that or it's so risky doing Lake Erie. We've done Lake Michigan, but then you have to get into Canada, and you can have some kind of delay at the border. So I think an around Indiana would be very, very fitting. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Seth says, don't forget ruin and repeat. Yeah. Design 5, measure 8 times, design 14 times, remeasure, and then ruin it. Michael Trueblood says, Thunder in the Valley. Thunder in the Valley, I've never been to the Thunder in the Valley, but it sounds like a lot of fun. I think you have been, right? Seth says, I used to take an old Chevrolet on 1,000-mile plus drives. I learned early on that a credit card fixes all. The nice thing about a Janus is, certainly with my experience with a 250, it doesn't cost. You can fix anything with the tools in your bike on the side of the road for most things. Obviously, you don't want to like bend your rim or something like that, but for most things, you can fix it pretty cheaply. Howard, at Porsche factory school, I was told that 1 millimeter was the thickness of a dime. Probably is. Hold on. Let's confirm that. Do I have a dime? I have a penny. I don't have a dime. Wait. It's because I used all my dimes. All right, we got to keep moving here. Michael, I'll chat with Kyle about that. We may be able to work in a little delivery trip. I think he may be talking about Thunder in the Valley. No promises, of course. All right. So we've come up with a overall length, which I need to finalize here. I'm talking too much. That's actually why these are fun. It's not the design part, it's the talking. I think to be safe, we're going to allow ourselves plenty of clearance, and we're going to make this 100 millimeters or 10 centimeters, which is a good round number, and it gives us plenty of clearance off of the well, that's tall. Woo. Let's see what it looks like. There it is. There you go. So anybody on here, machinists, let me know what you think. Does this look crazy? I might put a little chamfer on the top. Just, there we go. All right. Looks pretty good to me. Thunder in the Valley, the Maggie Valley, the Maggie Valley Rally. I don't know. Is that the same thing? Seth says, Richard, do you remove how to set points? What does that mean? Oh, remember how to set points. Talk about a measurement device from the past. Yes, points. I do. I've done a lot of points gap setting in the old moped days. We would have a little light box, and now that every Janus that we've ever made, even the 50cc, has a CDI. So it's an electronic control of the spark. But on all the old vintage mopeds that we used to work with, including the Paragon, the first bike that got us started, uses, actually the Paragon, we did put a HPI. So essentially a CDI on that bike with a curve. But in the old days, yes, we would absolutely do setting your points and setting your ignition and use a little bit of sandpaper sometimes between them to clean them off a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. Matchbook cover was 0.03. Yep. Okay, let's update this print. So we've got the part number. Let's see how fast we can do this. It's 8:01. I'll see what I can do. This is going to take some redesign. So yeah, see, there it is. So now it doesn't fit our print anymore. But let's see here. If y'all can always leave if you want to, but I'm going to try and finish this guy up real quick. So we're going to change the scale. We doesn't need to be 1:1 for this. So let's just go ahead and do the overall scale for the whole drawing. We're going to change that. We're going to go to properties. And, oh yeah, it's way too big. So we can go down to 1:1. And then this guy, we'll go to 1:1 too. Oh, it's 3:1. Doesn't need to be that big. There we go. 1:1. And see how all those dimensions? Onshape did not used to be able to update that easily. It's really gotten a lot more advanced over the last couple of years. But it sure is nice to be able to use an existing design and not have to redo all the dimensioning. It's wonderful. Okay, so let's just see what we've got here. All the overall dimensions are going to be similar. I'm going to keep the threading the same, but we are going to add, now we have a new dimension down here to the end. So there's your overall dimension. Do we need any others? I don't think we do. Got that dimension. We've got a detail here of the end of the head of the bolt showing the hex head and the width of that. It is called it in both millimeters and inches. And let's see, we'll do this. Yeah, maybe I'll leave it like that. It's a little more clear. Get this guy out of the way. We are going to have to move the thing down because when this print was made, we did not have revision tables, which we now do on all of our prints. So we're going to add a revision table in here, and that's going to mean that we need to either realign that or move it. So there it is, but we only need 2 rows. I only show 2 rows, the one that you're looking at now and the previous one. You don't need to see any more than that, at least in my opinion. We're going to rotate this 90 degrees like that. Oh, and that's really going to mess up all our dimensions. Let's see, do I need to do that? Maybe I can get away with doing this. I'm going to stick this in the corner. I'm going to put this guy here. Or maybe right here. How's it going, everybody? Thunder in the Valley, Maggie Valley. Oh, the difference between Thunder in the Valley and Maggie Valley. Yep. Almost done with this. Move some dimensions around. And the goal is to make it as legible as possible. I like to just keep all the little arms and legs and numbers in different spots clear from each other. There we go. And this little note, we're gonna shorten him up a little bit. Doop. Like that. And I'll stick him down here where he's visible. And this is an important, this is the ID. So I wonder if that's not too small. That shows the ID. Yeah. Yep. I think that works. Yeah. All right, what do y'all think? Look pretty clear? Got our steel alloy. This is a print for the manufacturer, which is they're down in Tennessee, I believe. Breakquip. Metric thread, metric head, dims in inches. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good point. It's a good point. We always have done that just because all of our vendors are Amish, or most of them are. I wonder if I can change it. Just do that one. Can I do them all? Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna try and do a more universal way of doing that. Hold Hold on here. We're going to go up to our properties. Yeah, I think we may leave it since we've done it before. He says, honestly, it doesn't bother me. Just observing. Get on with it, is actually what he's saying. No, you're absolutely right. That is a good point. It has worked really well for us in the past, but I think we really do need to be more consistent with our dimensioning, especially with the move between, when you're moving between two different standards like that. It's two different units. It's not something we often do, which is really probably the main reason. I'm going to go ahead and release this one, and we can update it differently. But I want to wrap this up with y'all. So let's go ahead and just do a quick little title here. It's going to say extended standpipe, whatever that means. All right. And we're going to make a little revision note right here next to this guy. Jeep Mandan, off topic. Sorry, that's totally fine. Off topic is the name of the game here. But at the tail end of Friday's live stream, I remember someone asked about updates to the chain guides for the 450. Were there or will there be updates to the chain guides? Hey, tell me more what you mean by that. Curious. What you mean by the chain guides? I'm wondering, like the chain tensioners, and if so, what you heard was updated. We are going to be listing soon a nice chain alignment tool, which is going to make chain alignment a lot easier. So anyway, there you go. We've got this up here. Let me just make sure we're ready to go. I think we're good. Seth says, I'm not being critical. You might have noticed I'm fascinated by Janus lately. It's fun to watch a manufacturer grow. I've done it multiple times. It's nice. It's not my problem. Yeah, tell me about it. I don't know what it's like to not be my problem. No, that is fantastic. Your criticism is well received. I love it. That's why we're on here. That's why I'm enjoying these ramble streams. I really, last one I really got a kick out of the back and forth. Rev C, this part belongs to a studio that has regeneration errors. That means that it's not going to let me release it. So this really may be outside of my... this may take a little longer than we're ready for. Let's see what the regeneration errors could be. Nothing wrong here. Why is it not letting me release? Oh, he's got a configuration. So this is a result of some of the stuff that Charlie's done. So I might need to spend more time kind of digging into what's going on here. So here you go. Here you can actually see with the banjo on there. I'm going to delete these because these are part of a separate... these are for the other design, so I don't really need them in this since we've already tested all this stuff out. So let's see if it'll let me release now. No. Huh. Yeah, this definitely has something to do with the... I'm wondering if it's this guy. This is threaded. This is not. Well, I think what we're going to do is say we are ready to release. I've got to work out a couple of little kinks in the actual release process, but it's mostly done. I think it's 8:12. It's about time we wrapped up. Man, this has been fantastic. I've really enjoyed. This is great. All these comments is so much fun. Seth, yes. He says, I'm impressed that you do it. Seems like an exercise in telling idiots like me to hush. No, it's not. Actually, you can tell I'm paying attention. It's great. I definitely, I was not trained as an engineer. I'm trained as an architect. Actually, my father taught me how to dimension a drawing. And architectural dimensioning is more about how it looks. Well, I mean, it has to carry but it really emphasizes. He was trained by an older draftsman down in Kentucky, Bowling Green, I believe, or Frankfort, Kentucky. They don't train you, or they still don't, or they didn't at least train you how to actually draft in architecture school, which is kind of amazing. You really pick that up in the studio, in the firm, and the firm would take you under their wing. And part of your getting your licensure as an architect is accumulating hours, years, in most cases, working on projects. And the draftsman, which is typically not an architect, or it wasn't historically, that's their job. I mean, you look at some of the great architects like McKim, Mead and White or Carrera and Hastings. They had incredible draftsmen, and their job was to represent the designs of the architect. And they were just masters of rendering, stippling, like adding the little speckle to concrete in a section view. I mean, because it was all done by hand. Just absolute masters at this stuff. And so he was trained by an old draftsman who taught him how to draft and how to do lettering and everything like that. And what dimensioning I do and what little I know, I did learn from my father. But I did not learn about engineering dimensioning. So always open to feedback. Okay. Let's just catch up with these comments and then sign off here. Confed Yank, for me, Janus solves a problem I meet people ask about. Not everyone wants one type of product, especially among motorbikes. I find people have various tastes, and Janus fills it in the U.S. I couldn't say it better. That's it. There's so many different kinds of bikes, and we like to fit a different bill for people who maybe are looking for something a little different. Jeepman Dan, I wasn't sure either, but he asked like there was an update in process. Oh, he's talking about the chain adjusters. I think maybe the chain hits the bottom guide at low RPMs, just guessing. Yeah, there was an update. We did make an update to the swing arm to prevent the chain hitting. We have slider blocks. So if anybody has any questions about that or you're having any issues, just get a hold of us. We do have a fix for that. That's all the new bikes have it, but some of the earliest bikes, they have the lower one. They don't have an upper one. That's what it is. And so we've added that, and there's an easy conversion kit if you need it. Michael Trueblood, he may know that as a chain guard. Okay, yeah, that's what I think he was talking about. Seth says, precisely in January I didn't know Janus existed. By March I bought one. It was salve for the soul. Oh, that's awesome. Really glad you're enjoying the bike. Confed Yank says, 8 times measured, 14 times designed per made, 100,000 failures for 1 success. I hope it's not that many, but yeah, sometimes it feels like it. By the way, I love the continuous improvement mentality from Jeepman Dan. Yep. I wish we could do even more of it, honestly. Seth Mark says, they didn't teach load bearing. Interesting. Yes. In architecture school, I'm not saying we didn't do any engineering. I was just mainly referring to engineering dimensioning in a print. We did take, do I have it here? I wonder if I have it here. We did do, we took a structures class, which for the longest time I had it's called, what was it called? Engineering Simplified. It was basically engineering for idiots. That's what the architects call it, because we know it's not what you're getting in engineering school. But we did basic engineering for building construction, point loads and dead loads and how to calculate. I forget now all the different the triangulation, vectoring, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we did do some of that. Jeepman Dan says, hi Michael, it was about the lower guide mounted to the chain guard. Yes, that would actually be the upper one, and it is mounted to the chain guard, and you can let us know if anyone has any issues with that. We can help you and send you the parts and with a video on how to install it. It's a pretty easy solution. So anyway, I think we're going to leave it at that. Thank you all so much for joining in. It's been an absolute blast, and I hope to do more of these. Let me know if there's anything you think we can improve on or get better at. This is definitely a experiment and always improving, continuous improvement. So, thank you all. Really enjoy watching. Yep, likewise, enjoy hanging out. So, without further ado, I wish you a good week and a good end to your, what I hope is a leisurely Sunday. Signing out from the Ramblestream. Talk to y'all later.